Sweetie, are you there? That image threw me off. I'm like, I could have sworn I turned on the video. Why won't it go away? It's you, silly woman. Did you do your hair? It looks so nice.
I don't know. I think it's just parted differently.
You didn't
Thank you.
go to the hair salon or something? Okay, I'm going to let in the folks.
Look it.
How do I do that?
Let me see.
Oh, Alex. Huh?
He recognizes your voice, I bet.
That's
Alex.
very kind of fat.
We're on YouTube.
Kind of big. He's big. Is he big?
Big and beautiful.
Admitting. It looks so kind of weird with this image, but I can get it any higher.
I'm not quite sure if I should leave this one early or arrive to the other one late. There's a little bit of a crossover.
Yeah. Hello. I'm just gonna chat with Anna Monica 1 second. Are you talking about for the next?
Yes.
That's going to be the ceremony, though, right?
Yes. Would you mind then if I?
No, please. I've done it many times with my mother-in-law. In fact, I was going to mention it. Not many times, but I mean, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you.
So I'm zoomed out, I must admit, because we've been on a Zoom retreat. I guess "on" is the right word. "Por" in Spanish works better almost. With two wonderful teachers from, wow, she's from England and he's from Tennessee. And they were both monastics for many years. And then they met and got married and opened a meditation center in South Africa. And now they have a meditation center in Sebastopol, California, north of San Francisco. They still have the one in South Africa too, but they're not there. Anyways, they're quite extraordinary people. And we've been on that retreat now for has it been 4 days, right? 4 days, and then there's still tomorrow. So I'm a little, it was like, the first one's like a 3-hour session, and then a 2-hour session, I think, and then a 1-hour session, something like that.
6 hours a day on Zoom.
And so I'm not going to, show you guys Analio texts today. In fact, I'm going to spare you too many handouts, just a couple. But I thought I would kind of step back a little bit. Especially Kittasaro, he's a Rhodes Scholar, just this amazing mind, and he synthesizes the teaching so beautifully. And apparently he has spent almost as much time practicing Mahayana Buddhism as he has Theravadan. He was with Ajahn Chah for 15 years as a Theravadan monk in Thailand, but he's also followed this Master Wa, right? Was the name Wa? Is that the guy's name? And so it's Mahayana and it's Theravadan. It's both, and they do it so beautifully. I wouldn't even dream that I could even come to a fraction to where they're at. But what it provoked in me a little bit was this idea of just stepping back for a second and asking ourselves, and maybe you can even ponder this while you're meditating, okay? This is a quote from a Chinese Chan master, which is the Zen. Before it got to Japan, it was in China. It was called Chan. And the story goes that the master, the teacher, was asked by his students, "Master, why a lifetime of practice? Why do we practice?" And the master replied, "To have the appropriate response, to respond correctly, appropriately. which is with our compassion, our kindness, our wisdom, and our insight. And it's just such a beautiful pointer, I think. It kind of gets me going back in the right direction. Just reminding myself why I'm doing this. Because if you think about it, every second of the day we're responding, right? The brain is responding every moment to whatever arises. It's just a constant case of response. And so to have the appropriate one, it's like, why not? Sounds good to me. I'd rather have the appropriate one than the wrong one, the inappropriate. Anyways, why don't, oh, you know what? I don't have my timer. Let's see if, here, just hold on one second. Let me get it. Okay. Thank you for that. Um, so what was I going to say? I was going to say something about the practice. Yes. So kind of connecting to a couple weeks ago when we were reading from Analio and reading about concepts and how concepts can be helpful. I also saw or listened to a audio by another famous teacher by the name of Thanissaro Bhikkhu, who was kind of like Analio before Analio. Now he's older, but still quite amazing. And he talked about how even in the jhanas, that first jhana, we use thought. We can use thought, and we do use thought to help concentrate the mind, to help focus the mind. And then in this retreat that Anna Monica and I have been on with Kittasaro, he said the same thing. And so I thought I would just bring that up, that there's so many skillful ways that we can use our thinking mind, because our mind loves to think, right? It loves to play with words and so forth. And so we don't have to like quit the word stop thinking. We can just work with those words and bring them around to what we want to pay attention to. So if you're following the breath, you can say breathing in, breathing out, or like sometimes my breath is very short, so I'll just say in, out, out. And just the saying of the words helps concentrate the mind. It now knows where to look. It looks where the words are connecting, what the words are talking about. And so maybe, if you're full body and you want to feel the body, sensing. Or if you're, listening to sounds, hearing. These are absolutely useful tools that we can use to, it has two benefits, right? Is it gives the thinking mind something to do, something to think about, right? It gets to think in words. And so it's satisfied, it relaxes, it chills out, it's got something to do, right? And then it helps focus the attention, right? Bring the attention, bring the awareness to the object. So it can be very useful. So I recommend that you give that a try during the meditation, if it's helpful. And if you find that it's not, then you don't have to do it. Okay. So I'll give a little guidance. Mostly we'll be in silence. And then in the last 10 minutes or so, we'll open it up for a little more of a vipassana, insight meditation techniques. So find yourself a comfortable posture. Like Analio would say or does say, rest your awareness into your body like your body is resting on your seat, on your cushion, on your chair, on your bed. So just bringing the attention into the body, maybe feeling or sensing the body, whatever is present. Or you might, I like this word, observing, observing, the observador. So you could just observe the body, maybe scan it. We've been doing body scans, following Bhikkhu Analayo's teachings, the Buddhist teachings. So just observe what you find in your body. The important objective is to create an embodied presence, an embodied awareness, a unification of mind and body and heart. So, whatever technique helps you do that, the feeling of the body sensations, observing the body and its activity. And again, even words, we can use words, reciting the different body parts, for example, focuses the mind, draws the attention to whatever is being named. So here you have your full body, your posture, your sitting posture that can be an anchor. And so for the next 15 minutes or so, we just keep coming back to our anchor. As we notice the mind is wandered off, we bring it back. Again, we can use labels, words, returning, sensing, feeling. And if you like using the breath as an anchor, such a beautiful tool, neutral yet so accessible. So just follow the breath, maybe up the nostrils or in the belly, the chest. And again, you can use words. In and out. I don't know if dentro y fuera works the same. Maybe inhalando, exhalando. Just kind of helping your mind remember sati, mindfulness, remember where it's supposed to go. And if the body is just too uncomfortable for you today, you could try hearing. I do it more and more now. Just waiting for sounds to come, very receptive type of meditation, just returning to the hearing. So whatever works for you, the samatha practice of calming and centering the mind. And again, so important, just relax. You want to be bright, you want to be aware, but you also want to be relaxed. if your mind is really stuck on something it wants to think about, no worries, don't fight with your mind. The one thing you can do is try to include your body in the conversation. See if you can feel into the body any sensation or emotion that might be connected to that thought. And maybe just the seeing it, observing it, might chill out the mind a little bit, create a little space, little gap. Now, if you are willing, and hopefully the mind is a little more concentrated, a little more calm, I invite you to allow whatever is most obvious in your awareness to be your anchor, to be the object of your awareness. So rather than just focus on the breath or the sensations of the body or sounds, it might move around. For a bit, it'll be sounds, and then maybe sensation in the body, and then nothing will be stronger than the breath, so we rest on the breath. Just allowing the attention to be with whatever is most obvious, most clear. And then keeping in mind how none of these things seem to be permanent, how they're always changing, moving about, growing, shrinking. Anicca, the impermanence of all conditioned phenomena. So, in these last couple moments of our formal practice, let's return to the body. Turn to that unity of mind, body, heart, that embodied presence. Just feeling the physical form, the posture, and then maybe bringing your attention to your heart center, feeling that area, and thanking yourself for your practice, for taking time out on this rather auspicious day, Easter, Semana Santa, taking time out to center yourself and nourish yourself and care for yourself in this way, which by extension is probably the best thing we could do to care for those around us, those we love. And then maybe imagining you can send out in all directions kind, loving awareness, including everybody on this call, maybe including your family, your friends, maybe those who are suffering a bit, and just extend it out in all directions. Noticing if there's any sensation in the body with that image or that idea, just extending out this infinite loving awareness in all directions. When you hear the sound of the bell, which I haven't hit this one for quite a while, we'll see how it sounds. But as usual, just see what comes up for you, the mind or the body. Wow, that bell's got quite a different sound from my bell in San Francisco. Thank you all very much for practicing with us together today. You know, we we were almost able to do it from Saladana. I ordered the Wi-Fi, and the guy came the next day, but then we had what we say in English, we had a hiccup. We had a little issue. So hopefully in the week coming, we'll get it, but we didn't get it. Close. Close and no cigar. But I'm looking forward to it. And I want to just thank Nacho here in front of everybody. He has taken such good care of Saladana. You could just see the love. So nice. God, that place is really beautiful. It's really special. But really, really good to see it. So yeah, like I introduced at the beginning, I thought I would, you could say, kind of step back a little bit and maybe have a broader view of Buddhism, meditation, mindfulness, and the theme kind of, or at least the trigger is this quote from this 9th century Chinese master, meditation master, who said, that we want to have the appropriate response. This is why we practice. And so much of the time, I think the appropriate response is to have compassion. And I know in Spanish, the word compassion can be mixed up with Catholicism and, different views about, I guess, Mary. I don't know much about Catholicism, but so the Pali word, and I believe also the Sanskrit word, is karuna. Karuna. So maybe we could just use karuna so we're not kind of mixing up other ideas that we might have around compassion. Because what it means in a Buddhist context is to want to alleviate the suffering of ourselves and others. It's being aware of the suffering of ourselves and others, and then wanting to alleviate it or wanting to reduce it or wanting it to end, and being willing to do something about it. And going back to this retreat that Anna Monica and I have been attending, where they have been talking very much about Theravadan Buddhism, but also Mahayana Buddhism, where the figure of the Bodhisattva Guanyin, the Bodhisattva of compassion, plays a very prominent role. It's like maybe for some, she is as important as the Buddha. They're very close. Guanyin. And you'll often see her kind of with a pose sort of like this, with one knee up, and I think her hand may be in a mudra, and she's sort of got like this receptive sort of posture. And it is said that, a bodhisattva is somebody who decides that they don't want nirvana yet, until all suffering has ended, until the suffering of all beings has ended. So this is the model, right? It's like somebody who is, in a way, sacrificing themselves for the good of all, because they could just go off to nibbana, whatever that is, but freedom from suffering, and maybe it's sort of a solitary type of place. So she is the bodhisattva, which is like a Buddha, but still in this realm where we live, of compassion, of karuna, of wanting to end all suffering. And the idea is this is the appropriate response in front of suffering. So like if I'm suffering because my mind is, locked on to something and it's beating me up or whatever, then the appropriate response would be to have compassion towards myself, or compassion towards my mind, or maybe a compassion towards the many selves that live within us, right? The little Jimmy who's 2 years old, and the bigger Jimmy who's 9, and then the Jim who's 17 or whatever. They're all still there, kind of, in a way, right? And sometimes they're scared, sometimes they're sad, sometimes, they're suffering. And so the appropriate response is to have compassion. And in the Mahayana tradition, they will say that the 2 wings of Buddhism are, one is compassion and the other one is wisdom. But it's fundamental. Without compassion, you're not going to be able to fly. Just the wisdom wing won't be enough. You'll twirl down and you'll crash, right? And the same with compassion. And so there's many tools in Buddhism to help bring us to the appropriate response. And I will add, because I know Nacho is interested in nonviolent communication, communicación no violenta, and I think maybe some others. I love it. And it also is a path to karuna, to compassion. You know, its fundamental, its foundation is that we all are trying to meet needs. All needs are universal and they're all beautiful. There are no bad needs. They're all beautiful needs. They're universal, and every expression is trying to meet a need. And through that point of view, that way of looking, hopefully we have compassion for ourselves and others. Well, same with Buddhism. We have right view, right? The very first of the Eightfold Path is right view, to see the world clearly. What is right view? Right view is the Four Noble Truths, right? The Four Noble Truths, which are agreed by all Buddhist schools. And what is the Four Noble Truths? The first one is that there is suffering, that there is stress, that there is dukkha, you know, that not every day is a great day. You know, we have our bad days. That's the first noble truth. The second one is that there's a cause. And the cause is tanha. It's craving, it's grasping, it's wanting things to be different than they are. And then the third one is that there's a cure. Like a doctor, the Buddha identified the problem and said that it can be cured. And the fourth one is the path, the Eightfold Path. Brings us back to the Eightfold Path, which begins with the right view. So when we see clearly, when we see that everybody suffers, right? We all suffer. Nobody is exempt from suffering. Nobody is exempt from dukkha. And that the reason is not because they're bad, not because they're stupid, not because they're evil. These are not concepts that have a place in Buddhism. They're confused, okay? They're in the affliction of grasping, the affliction of tanha, the affliction of wanting things to be different. So the cause of our suffering is not because people are bad. The cause of my suffering is not because I'm bad. The cause of my suffering is because I grasp. I grasp. Forgetting the apego is one of them. That's cling, right? Cling in Spanish. Apego. And I forget the one for grasp. It'll come to me. But you get what I mean. I want it. Or even when I don't want it, because like the three poisons, the three kilesas, the three causes of our suffering are greed, hatred, or aversion, or ill will, call it hatred for now, and then ignorance or confusion. These are the three primary, in fact, they cover really all of it. Those three cover them all. There's others, but those are the three primary ones. So with greed, want, right? I got to have more. Or don't want, which is really just a form of wanting, right? It's just I don't want. I want it not to be there. So it's really just kind of a form of wanting as well. So that wanting, that grasping, that thirst, they call it, causes me to suffer. I'm not okay with things the way they are. I want more of this or I want less of that. And then there's confusion or ignorance, which is really probably the most beguiling for sure. And it could be really the seed underneath the other two. Because there's a thought I have, a belief I have that if I just get more, I'll be happy. Even though I know now I'm 64 years old now, and I can tell you that more never brought me any happiness. And I got a lot more of various things, I mean, maybe for a minute or an hour or a day, but then it was gone. oh my gosh, what happened? I just bounced right back to the level of happiness I had before I got whatever it was, or getting rid of things. Although I have to say, the getting rid of has brought me a little more happiness. The simplifying of my life has brought me a little more happiness than the wanting more. And then the ignorance, the believing, that I know, I'm smart. I went through a period of my life where I was so arrogant, I thought I knew everything. And it was the worst period of my life, for sure, right? So I think one of the primary forms of ignorance is believing we know when we really don't, right? Believing we are something solid, right, when we really aren't, or that this is solid, really, and will last forever, when it really won't. This is what we had in the second part of the meditation, right? The impermanence. This is a form of confusion. We cling on to things thinking they'll last forever. Our youth, I was so happy. Oh, Anna Monica's going to go back to our retreat. It's starting back up. I did a handstand in my room here. See if you can see it. So there's my yoga mat. I didn't do it with the yoga mat. Can you see the wall? Yeah, you can see the wall. I did it against that wall for like 20 breaths. It wasn't very long. But I was so happy I could do it, right? Shit, I used to be able to do 50 in the middle of the room, no problem. Now I can barely do 20 up against the wall, and I'm lucky I don't land right on my head. So that clinging to youth, that clinging to our memory, our brain, these things will only cause us suffering, because this isn't the way the world is, right? Life is. Things change. So one of the lists that I like very much is going to be your one and only share screen today. Well, I'm going to also do a little a different thing at the end, but I'm going to show you one thing that I found very helpful in arriving at compassion. Let's see if I can find it. So we go here, and then right here. Okay. Does everybody see the 5 aggregates? Okay. A very short list. This is really quite clever, I think, of the Buddha. And this plays a prominent role in both the Mahayana and the Theravadan Buddhism. It's shared. But the Buddha said that all conditioned phenomena consist of these 5 khandhas, or aggregates, or heaps. So the first one is form, rupa. And that includes, our physical form. It includes all objects. It can also include, mental impressions, thoughts, and stuff like that. But think of it mostly for now as that we can look at and observe. That's probably a good way to put it. That we can observe, objects, right? And so you have objects, you have the rupa, which can be observed, and then you have us, the observer, looking at it. And here's where I think it gets so interesting and so helpful. So it goes through these next 4, or really 3 things. The first thing is Vedana, sensation. And I was just listening to I've been watching so many YouTubes with COVID, right? And this one was from a neuroscientist who talked about how they now can see how the brain lights up with every contact and it either likes or dislikes. And the like dislike happens in like a millionth of a second or a thousandth of a second. It's just so fast. We don't even know it. But the mind is just constantly assessing whatever it comes in contact with, like, dislike. Well, the Buddha had this 2,600 years ago, long before they had scanning machines. He called it Vedana. He said it's the first thing when we make contact. Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Or is it neutral? All right, so that's the first thing that happens. Then it goes through our perception, right? How we see it, how we view it, how we interpret it. And then that creates mental activity, thoughts about it. We fill in the pieces. Maybe we see somebody on the street that maybe we kind of like how that person looks. And so there's a positive feeling tone, Vedana. We perceive that person, and then we start making up a story about them. Where are they from? What's their name? Do they want to go on a date with me? Whatever the story might be. You could have a whole bunch of story, and that it originates or lands, you might say, with consciousness. Vijna. Now, especially in this third one, perception, and the fourth one, sankharas, the mental activity, all the causes and conditions of our life that has brought us to this very moment will impact how we perceive that form, that rupa, that object. Okay? And let's stop this now. So one reason I'm bringing this up is so I'm back in Spain, right? And I've talked to a few Spaniards about COVID, about the vaccines, about politics and stuff like that. And it has been quite interesting how the perception is quite a bit different here, at least amongst the people I've spoken to, than it is in the United States where I live. The people I've spoken to there, quite different. And so sankara, so my mind makes up stories about this, right? There's mental formation, there's thoughts about, because of the history of Spain, maybe because of the recent history of Spain, I believe maybe there's less, what I've observed is less confidence, maybe in authority, in experts, in institutions, maybe. This is kind of the, and I could be wrong, it's just this small sample. But there seems to be more suspicion about the vaccine than you find in the United States. And believe me, you find a lot in the United States, there's no doubt. So these are, and maybe this isn't true, and it might not be true for none of you, but it was, I observed from these few people I spoke to. And it's as a result of causes and conditions that have come together in their life and maybe in prior lives, right? And so these affect our brain, they affect how we perceive. But this is not our fault. We can't be, I can't be responsible for what has happened in my family tree going back 500 years. But what has gone on in my family tree for 500 years impacts how I see the world today. Absolutely. I mean, it's almost amazing. It's like when I look at my namesake, Forbes, we haven't really changed in at least 400 years since we arrived to America. We're pretty much the same. It's quite amazing. Slightly different, but not terribly different. It's like, oh my gosh, So the Buddha recognized this. The Buddha there's a wonderful book by a guy named David Rico called When the Past is Present. Right? Cuando el pasado está presente, en el presente. It's constantly in the present, the past. Even our ancestors are present in how we see the world, our culture, our friends, the books we've read, the TV we've watched, the advertisements that we get. All this stuff impacts how we see the world. So, how can we be blamed for having the perception that we do? That's not really very fair. At the best we can do with a lot of practice towards the goal of having the appropriate response is be aware of our perceptions, be mindful of them, and know when they're causing harm and when they're not, when they're serving us well and when they're not. And even that is terribly difficult, you know. I see we're just about out of time. Um, One thing that Tanisara brought up in the retreat was the concept of the shadow. This is a Jungian term that talks about that place in our subconscious where we kind of store all the things we don't like about ourselves. We store all the things we don't believe about ourselves. We kind of put them away in the shadow. We negar. We just pretend like they don't exist. But they do, but we just don't know, right? And these are also super, super important. We can't see what we can't see, but it doesn't mean it isn't there, right? And so this is the practice. The practice is to free up some will, to free up some vision, to free up some maturity, to become more mature as a person and to know ourselves better, right? Anyways, I think I will end with that. I don't know if it's at all helpful, just in case it wasn't so far. The key, though, hopefully the key that you'll bring away is this compassion, the karuna, the kindness towards ourselves and towards others, even those we don't agree with. For me, it was 4 years of Donald Trump and the Republican Party and stuff like that. Hating them does me no good whatsoever. No good whatsoever. In fact, really, it was quite true. I felt badly for Donald Trump. I don't think that poor guy has a moment of peace. You know, I wouldn't trade places with him for nothing. Nothing. I'd much rather have my life than his. And if we can't have compassion with somebody right away, please try to have compassion for yourself for not being able to have compassion for that other person right away. Okay? Because it takes years. Like I was telling Nacho, Marshall Rosenberg, when he talked about nonviolent communication as a language, he said it would take 7 years to become fluent. You could also, another way you could say is, it will take you at least 7 years to become compassionate towards everybody. So, right, no te preocupes, no tenemos prisa en this one. It will come. The more we practice, the more it'll come. Okay. Does anybody want to say anything? Does anybody have a comment or a question or anything?
Yes. Hi.
Yes.
I would like just to have to do a comment about compassion. I really like these teachings in Buddhism, but I also think that we sometimes I mistake it like to in a way like I accept some things that I see some people doing, I don't know, a bad thing, whatever. And I think that sometimes it's good that we speak up and we don't have to mix or misunderstand this compassion the meaning of compassion, because sometimes I think it's good that we step up and we say something in a whatever situation, and so I think compassion doesn't need to be mistaken for accepting everything, because we need to understand that that person has a certain background or whatever. So
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. And you know, this couple, they are super activists around the world. I mean, they went to South Africa because of apartheid, and they wanted to be there, you know, to do what they could, and so forth. So, absolutely, um, recognizing that the cause is confusion. The cause will be greed, hatred, and delusion. Almost 99.9% of the time, somebody will do something out of one of those three poisons. So we just want to be clear that it isn't that this person is bad, this person is confused or lost even, you know, and they're doing something that's harmful to them or others. And so we do need, sometimes we need to intervene, and sometimes tough love is necessary, you know, like where maybe there's got to be even a punishment for them, but we do it from the heart. We don't do it from hate. Hate, the
yeah.
Buddha was clear, hate will not cure hate, it will not stop hate. But yes, and we don't want people to run all over us. And we don't want to be codependent where we just let people do whatever and take advantage of us. No, because we want to be compassionate towards ourselves too and care for ourselves. Yeah, and this is what comes is, you know, finding that balance. You know, I went out and did the Black Lives Matter marches in United States, even though we had COVID and stuff, but it felt like the right thing to do. I'm an old white dude. I've had all the privilege that a person could have in America. I've got a great name, you know, and I've been a benefactor of it. And so it just felt like the right thing to do. But, you know, I wasn't so invested in it that I was angry. There were some people who were quite angry. I wasn't so angry, but I did it, you know. So, yes, I agree fully, Denise.
Thanks.
Anyone else like to say something? Okay, well, what I'd like to share with you is a chant. I'm not going to chant it, I'm just going to read it. But that will take the place of our metta, because it really is a Brahma Mahara chant. And it was shared during this retreat. They have many, many chants. They do a lot of chanting. I thought it would be beautiful to bring it up. So let's see. It is chanting book. Yeah. So I thought instead of doing the metta and the closing, we'll do this reflections on universal well-being. Right? So I'll go ahead and read them out loud. You could read them there at home if you want. I think we've got them all in there. Yep, that's it. 3 stanzas there. So I'll go ahead and read them, and it, you know, there's a chanting beat, but I I don't know it by heart, so I'll just read them. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts, they will be the heirs. I really love this chant. This has metta in it. This has karuna. May all beings be released from suffering. It also has mudita. May they not be parted from their good fortune. And it has the law of karma, all rolled into one. So thank you very much for being here today. I know this is for many people family day, and I was amazed how many people are outside in Madrid. I mean, it's like, I guess because they couldn't leave. They're like, I went out for a while and I got scared. I came back in. It's too many people. Anyways, I'm going to rejoin this retreat. If anybody wants to stay on the group, Carlos, can I make you the host, and then you guys could continue to chat? But I'll need to turn this off so I can go back to the other retreat. Thank you very much. And then hopefully next week, we'll see, but we'll be at Saladana. And look at the saladana.org website, because Nacho's adding a lot more yoga and so forth. Okay.
It has already been added, so.
Oh, very fast. You're very fast. Thank you, Nacho. Okay, so Carlos is going to become the host. Okay, bye.